listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., the Archdiocese of Chicago presents programming about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Good morning, and welcome to Mission Matters Live, a program focused on promoting a spirit of mission among the people of God in the Archdiocese of Chicago. My name is Megan Mio. I'm coordinator in the mission office, and our engineer this morning is our Mike and Javier. You are listening to WNDZ 750 AM. And this month we are broadcasting on the third Thursday of the month from 8:30 to 9 a.m. Today we are blessed to hear from Father Benjamin Chinnappan, who is a chaplain for the Veterans Affairs Archdiocese for the U.S. Military Services, and he lives in San Diego, California. I think I heard you say good morning, Father Ben. Is that you?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, indeed.
We're so glad to have you here. Father Ben is also the founder and executive director of Dalit Solidarity, a nonprofit organization that envisions a society in India where all human rights are respected and the oppressed Dalit population will have access to quality education, healthcare, and economic development. I've asked Father Ben to join us today to share with us his own knowledge and experience of this pandemic in India, especially this second wave that's been very difficult in these past months. As Catholics and people of goodwill, we are in solidarity with our suffering brothers and sisters, and so we are grateful that he is opening up and speaking about this pain in his home communities and his own personal experience of loss and hope. So, Father Ben, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for your invitation.
Yeah, of course.
For the last few months, it was a very intense moment. Mm-hmm. Both in the U.S. for me personally, mm-hmm. as well as for my people back home in India. Mm-hmm. This sharing gives me a sort of relief and comfort by sharing my own story and the story of my people who have been deeply affected by this unprecedented coronavirus pandemic. Thank you very much for your invitation.
Yes, of course. You're very welcome. Yeah, I think of this topic in particular as something that we are seeing some of it in the news these days, but I think it's important for us to hear it from someone like yourself who has personal vested interest, and you are hearing from folks on the ground in India what it's like. So we wanted to help inform our listeners and to open their hearts to the reality.
Yes, certainly. India moved from successfully containing the virus to the worst outbreak in the world.
Yeah, right.
In the first wave, India managed very well. There were not so many deaths or infections.
Initially, yep.
But the second wave of coronavirus was very ferocious. Mm-hmm. As our Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, it was a storm that has taken the nation by surprise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because so many people got sick very fast. Mm-hmm. There were no hospital beds, no oxygen, no viral drugs.
Mm-hmm.
The hospitals were totally overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yep.
The healthcare system completely collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
And they were turning away thousands of the people. People were arriving in ambulances, cars, scooters, and auto rickshaws, pleading for admission.
Yeah.
But no one could help them in any way. It looked like a war zone, in fact, in Delhi, in Mumbai, even in South India.
Mm-hmm.
People were all scrambling for medical oxygen and supplies.
Yeah, oxygen, yeah.
Even the makeshift cremation sites were very busy. For the Hindus, cremation is a very important part of their life.
Mm-hmm.
But even those places were out of space because too many bodies were being burnt.
Right.
So people were running here and there, even to give a dignified burial, and even it was not possible because everything was overloaded. People were working around the clock, So it was really heavy burden. Even for me, watching from here, my own people suffering like this. The situation was very scary.
Yes.
We don't know how India got to this point, in the pandemic at this time. And so many countries are really conquering and containing the virus.
Yeah.
As I told you, we did initially very well through the lockdown.
Right.
And it was very strict lockdown. People had to walk to their homes from big cities, thousands of the miles by walk, by cycles. The entire country was basically frozen.
Right.
But in a way, it contained the virus, even though the economy completely broke down.
Right.
So it was a devastating lockdown. People lost their jobs. And the biggest impact of this lockdown was, honestly, the poorest people.
Right.
Who were living from hand to mouth.
Yeah.
Because these poor people have no savings.
Yeah.
Few dollars per day. You can imagine how tough it could be.
Yeah.
So when the lockdown was lifted in June, people went for work. So in the first wave, we never had any great healthcare crisis at all.
Okay.
As the time passed, there was even a sense of victory. Even the Prime Minister claimed that the mission was accomplished.
Yeah. Yep.
But in January 2021 and February, life was very normal, as if nothing has happened. It was pretty successful start, 2021.
Okay.
But things changed dramatically because of the political campaigns, rallies, and religious pilgrimages of the Hindus in Haridwar, which is very important part of their life.
Yeah.
Millions of the people gathered near River Ganges.
Right. Oh dear. Yeah, that's
This
dangerous.
COVID protocols were not followed. No social distancing, no mask. So certainly, everybody was taken by surprise when the attack came into reality.
Right.
The government was encouraging people for vaccine. And in fact, India was one of the largest producer of the COVID vaccine.
Oh.
Since everything looked normal, people were not interested.
Oh no.
And these government people were giving wrong messages. They were not giving clear messages to the people.
Oh.
In one way, they are asking to have vaccine. The other way, they are running the political campaigns where we can see a huge sea of people.
Right. At rallies and things of that
So
nature.
because of this, this second wave really had a devastating impact on entire nation. And even today, we are paying heavy price
Yeah.
for these things.
Yeah.
So this outbreak really exploded beyond what we can handle.
Mm-hmm.
Even the government cannot do anything at this time, and they were trying their level best. And the frontline workers, doctors, did wonderful work.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost more than 850 doctors in the line of duty.
Mm.
So my sense is that government was totally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
People were very scared.
Mm-hmm.
And now the government is considered more drastic lockdowns.
Yeah.
So everybody says the same thing, but the speed of this spread just took everybody by surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are still working on the situation.
Yeah.
Even though it has come to some level of control, the damage has been too much.
It's been done. Yeah.
We lost so many loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
We lost so many, so many people are still in the hospital suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So in this kind of situation, for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
it was a personal loss, a personal grief also.
Of course.
That as the whole country is supporting India, not only the whole country,
Yeah.
even the whole world is supporting us
That's right.
to move from this tragedy,
Yeah.
to find some relief. So this is pretty much the grim reality
Mm-hmm.
of this COVID-19 at this time.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of this desperate situation,
Mm-hmm.
there has been some hope
Yeah.
from the world communities.
Right.
I am very thankful to the U.S. and to the world communities
Mm-hmm.
in coming forward to share our grief and losses.
Mm. Yeah, and to try to lend a hand as well. That was one of the reasons I hope to have you on our show today, because I think people need to have a little more information to understand what that reality is, and then also what the best way to help it would be. And you mentioned the lockdown last year and that you expect another one to come. I think this is one of the things that we in the U.S. are not aware of, that when these really strict lockdowns occur, that, like you mentioned, the poor people in the rural areas who earn just enough in the day to eat that day, when these lockdowns occurred, there was great suffering and a very severe fear of famine and folks dying of hunger. Now, you have an organization, Dalit Solidarity, that was providing a number of different services, most especially education for poor children. But I understand that you adapted the work that you were doing with Dalit Solidarity in an effort to try to relieve some of those fears, some of the concerns about hunger, and some of the protective equipment as well. Is that correct?
Yes. The lockdown has really brought so many lives to the poverty, to the extreme poverty,
Mm-hmm.
because many of these are daily wages, we call coolies.
Mm.
They go every day for work to feed their families.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this lockdown, they could not get any jobs.
Right.
Survival has become a critical issue.
Mm-hmm.
Starvation has led to malnutrition and poor immune system, who are more vulnerable to this coronavirus. Yeah. As parents die, many children have become orphans,
Right.
and destitute.
Mm-hmm.
So in this kind of situation, Dalit Solidarity has been always on the front line,
Mm-hmm.
helping these migrant workers, these daily workers, in getting some food,
Mm-hmm.
medicine, and also PPE kits,
Yeah, personal protective equipment. Mm-hmm.
hygienic kits,
Mm-hmm.
in whatever we
So-
can help them to protect them.
Yeah.
And also we provided some education and training how they have to remain well protected by following the COVID protocols.
Mm-hmm.
So we also encouraged the local communities to go for vaccine.
Mm.
People were a little bit scared, skeptical of getting vaccine.
Right.
So in this kind of situation, we encouraged them. Vaccine is the only way of protection. In the meantime, we also worked with the local diocese, Jesuit social welfare centers, NGOs in helping the communities finding some hope and meaning for their lives.
Yeah. Working together, because as you
We
said,
also
the
put
numbers are
together
so high.
Food packages, like 10 kilos of rice, dal, and the cooking oil, spicy items, worth of $15 per family. That food package will help them for at least for 1 or 2 weeks. So I have received requests from 3,000 people in India, all over India, because I published on the Facebook of our relief efforts.
Yeah.
So we are starting our campaign, food campaign this week.
Oh, excellent.
Providing food and medicine and PPE kits.
Yeah.
So our target is at least to raise $100,000 in the coming weeks
Okay.
to support 3 dioceses in Tamil Nadu, where I come from.
Okay.
The bishop also spoke to me. Actually, I sent you yesterday a video message from Bishop Nidhinathan
Okay.
asking for an appeal. If you open your email, certainly you will find that message today.
Okay.
So these are some of these initiatives I have taken from here in wiping out the tears of my people.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting
I have
some
been
help from
personally
the
affected by this pandemic, even though I work at the VA in San Diego.
You know, Father Ben, I'm going to ask you to pause right there because I think we need to take a break, but we will talk more about how you have been personally affected and what you're hearing from the bishops on the ground in India as well when we return. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Catholic Charities has continued to respond to the needs of people who come to us for assistance. More than 850,000 meals and food parcels have been offered to those who are struggling with food insecurity. Over 108,000 homelessness prevention hotline calls have been answered. Over 22,000 people have received mental health services, and $2 million in financial assistance has been provided to keep people housed. If you or someone you know needs assistance, email us at gethelp@catholiccharities.net. That's gethelp@catholiccharities.net. Or call 312-655-7700. That's 312-655-7700. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
The Word Made Clear is exactly what its name implies. It's an easy-to-understand explanation of the Word of God, the Gospel. Hello, I'm Father James McElhone, Director of Biblical Formation for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I'd like to invite you to take our free online Bible study program by going to thewordmadeclear.org. Our website offers an audio-based guide to the Gospels of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. Listen to my lectures and follow along with the handouts provided. There are even discussion guides. You can also explore the biblical roots of the Mass. And there are links to a wide variety of biblical sources that will benefit both teachers and students of the sacred scriptures. Just go to wordmadeclear.org to experience our free online Bible study program. Again, it's free at wordmadeclear.org. It's the Word of God. Enjoy.
And welcome back to Mission Matters Live. I am Megan Mio, coordinator for the Mission Office, and I have with me on the phone Father Benjamin Chinnappan, chaplain of the Archdiocese of the U.S. Military Services and executive director of the nonprofit Dalit Solidarity. And we've been talking with Father Ben and learning from him about the situation in southern India as this disastrous pandemic, especially the second wave, continues to cause suffering and loss. And so, Father Ben, just before we stopped, you were beginning to share what you've been hearing from the bishops on the ground, how the church is reaching out to folks, and how you yourself, as someone who's from that area of India, I'm sure you have loved ones, family, friends who've been affected, and you've had some loss as well. Please tell us.
Yes, Megan, thank you very much. I'm very thankful to the Archdiocese of Chicago. It is still my home, as I worked for almost 14 years.
That's right.
In Chicago for our veterans and their families.
Right, at the Heinz
VA.
Yes,
at the Heinz VA. Mm-hmm. So your invitation is really comforting and giving me lots of hope. As Dalit Solidarity is a tax-exempt charity in the U.S.,
right.
We are working with the local government in India, as well as with the local diocese and some religious congregations in providing some hope and relief. As I mentioned earlier, this pandemic has left many children also as orphans and destitutes, which is very painful phenomena. Dalit Solidarity has reached out to these communities, especially to the widows and daily wages, and people with disabilities. Many of them are Dalits too.
Dalit, yeah.
I am currently working with the Chengalpattu Diocese, Bishop Nidhinathan, and the Vellore Diocese nearby with administrator, since the diocese is vacant, and also religious communities like Loyola Jesuit mission in Chennai, in providing some food, some medicine, some sanitizers like oximeters, masks, and even some hygienic kits and some dry ration kits. These are some of the ways I am trying to relieve the pain of my own people. And
it sounds like you're working with the church.
My school available to the local government to take care of the corona patients.
Right, the school building you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That your building was not in use.
The government officials came and inspected our school. They told us when the public hospitals, government hospitals are overflowing, we are going to bring out those patients for care to our school. Like that, I am in touch with those local NGOs also. In whatever way we can find some hope, give them some hope. This has been my biblical call. This has been my witness value. I can mind my own life in San Diego, but when my people are suffering, I have to respond.
Right.
I have to hear their cry also. As Pope Francis has mentioned recently, how we can share the resources globally to help the communities. I was very much impressed by even the U.S. Bishops' Conference as well as the European Bishops' Conference, shared responsibility for the whole humanity.
Right.
And that inspiration came from Pope Francis. So I am very thankful for the U.S. Bishops' Conference as well as Pope Francis, and reaching out to our people and also globally in reaching out the most vulnerable communities in India during this time of pandemic.
Well, this is solidarity. This is truly
being
suffering together, and celebrating our joys together and suffering together And when there's a community in need, we all arrive. We all have our responsibility to one another as brothers and sisters. Now, you mentioned that you've been talking with the bishops. I also want to mention, I know we spoke about this before, but I want our listeners to know, I have one news source, Agenzia Fides, recently, at the end of May, put out a notice about how the church in India is really affected by this pandemic. You mentioned there's been a loss of doctors and nurses. There's also been a terrible loss of priests, nuns, and even bishops. As of May 30th, according to Agenzia Fides, 204 priests, 212 nuns, and 3 bishops have already passed due to this pandemic. So this church in India is hurting. Even as you mentioned, through Dalit Solidarity, you're working with church leaders on the ground. You're trying to offer some relief. So we have a responsibility as church around the world to be in solidarity. So I want to ask you, with our last few minutes, what can our listeners do? What would you ask of us here in the U.S., in the Chicago area? What can we do to offer our solidarity and support?
More than, according to the current statistics, closer to 300 priests and more than 250 nuns died, and 4 bishops.
4 now. Oh my goodness.
Including my retired bishop. He just retired a few months ago. And it's a big loss for my diocese and for me personally. Most of them died on the line of duty.
Right. They're dying doing what they
the priests and sisters were involved in community outreach. So certainly they were vulnerable to the virus.
Yeah.
And I lost personally a few priest friends. For me, it is a really huge loss. I have been grieving for all these days. As I was telling how the Archdiocese of Chicago or the people in Chicago can help us during this time of pandemic, as we are all going through a valley of darkness. Our charity, Dalit Solidarity, is a non-profit organization, and all your donations are tax deductible. Certainly, your contributions can help children and the widows to keep them going, to provide education for the children who are left the school because of the situation. And also, I am looking for some food relief packages that cost $15 per pack, which can be distributed many of these families in these dioceses and also through these religious communities who are working on the ground. And also we like to distribute hygienic and PPE kits that could include soap, sanitizers, masks, and so many things,
Right. Yeah, they can find out how to donate on your website, which is dalitSolidarity.org, DALITSOLIDARITY.org, dalitSolidarity.org. Again, and you can find out their phone number and email address. Obviously, you can make the donations there, and you can learn a little bit more about what Dalit Solidarity is doing on the website. So we invite our listeners to go there. Now we're just about out of time, so I just want to say finally, Father Ben, so sorry to hear about the losses that you personally have experienced, that the losses of the church in India and the country of India is experiencing right now. And we are with you in that. And so I also remind our listeners that prayer is also the most powerful. That listening here today, you've learned something new. Hopefully you'll go out and learn a little bit more, look in the news, hear about what's going on in your diocese to support the church in India, and that you'll pray in a special way for all those losses that we have experienced. So thank you so much for joining us, Father Ben, and for sharing this very personal experience. May God bring...
Thank you again, Megan, Archdiocese of Chicago.
You're very welcome.
For your timely intervention.
Yeah, and let this common experience of grief and loss unite us and inspire a new sense of mission. We're called to be a people of hope. So don't forget to tune in next month for more Mission Matters Live. Thank you for listening, and always be on mission.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.